Hello and welcome back. I am wearing the Grogu hoodie today because I want to be comfy. I'm going to find some music. What are we going to put on, people? What are we going to put on? Drop that down. There we go. We are live. We are, cheers. It's it's a comfort thing. It's really comfy. Living in Wales, you need a little bit of comfort. So, what are we doing? We are going to be planning a project. Let me take this down. You can see the bold head again. So, I'm planning this project at the moment, and it's been a while since I've done any real project planning, really. And yes, it is what I wear to interviews. I wear it constantly. It's like, it's my second skin. So, I've got a Laravel. I'm calling it Sidekick. Kind of cool. And what I'm going to be doing is walking you through thoughts, planning it in linear, getting it all good and ready to go. And I will zoom in, don't worry. So let's change our view and let's head on in. So the idea is that I'm going to be able to do project management, basic stuff, gather feedback, do support, maybe knowledge-based stuff, maybe, and engagement stuff, maybe. The whole idea kind of circles mostly around kind of these two first parts. This is what I'd class as that MVP up the top, this feedback and project management. So I can start to kind of work on a product and get feedback from it. Yeah, I probably do need to think of a name, but I'm sticking with it for now just because it's easy. It's just the name I thought of. And what I've done so far is walk through and basically split out each kind of core domain or feature. And within each one, I've got a list of, the models that I would need for it to operate. So I've got things like a project, a task. You can comment on tasks and attach things. You can set cycles. So you can say, okay, I've got a 6-week cycle. Let's add things into it and kind of label tasks. And I can log activity on each task so that you can see, oh, it moved from in progress to done, and that's sort of basic stuff. And feedback wise, you can gather feedback from the product, vote on kind of feedback items, comment on them, categorize them, move them into being like a roadmap item, and then capture change log entries and segment kind of users that access the feedback system. So you can get like a segment of beta testers or early testers, which you can, view a slightly different view into the feedback on. Support is basic support ticket system and knowledge-based stuff. And engagement, it's a possibility. I'm not 100% sold on all of this. But down the bottom, we've got like a user and a workspace and memberships, API tokens, webhooks, settings, all the kind of workspace management stuff. So what I've done is I've got my Laravel app here. That's all looking good. I've split it up into more of a feature slice approach. So inside features, I've got authentication, I've got settings. And then over here, I've got Sidekick. And what I want to do is, can I just do this? Here we go. You can see that a bit better, hopefully. Can I zoom in? I can. And yes, I do the clickety-clicky approach because I've got a split keyboard, which makes it harder. Will I record it? Yeah, I'll be recording all of it. Streaming, live streaming, writing, walking through the build, basically. So let's dive into some issues first. And what we're going to have in here, tenanting it, customer project, I'm not 100% sure. I may kind of add some multi-tenancy to it using Laravel Sprout because it's fun. And the tenant is basically, this will be the tenant. The workspace is a tenant. So for that, you'd go to like, as an example, tenant dot side kick dot test, and that is really small. So let's just make that larger. So you'd have this tenant.sidekick.test, and then on the root domain, you just have a list of all your workspaces, that sort of thing. Just stuff I'm playing with, idea I had. I thought as I'm creating content all the time, yeah, exactly, a workspace could be Titan. So what we'll do, we'll swap that to be Titan. So the idea there is that what I can do is create content on each part of it, you know, how to manage API tokens, how to set and send webhooks, workspace settings, building surveys, building a knowledge base, all of the different things I could possibly think to kind of create content around. I may as well do it all in one platform, so at the end you can see it all come together instead of like this sporadic, this is how to do this, how to do that. Hey James, how are you doing, bud? But yeah, that's the plan. So what we'll do is come and plan some of these issues. And what I like to do first is I would do something like authentication. As a user, I must be able to authenticate and access the system. Authentication, done. This is like the main feature at this point, right? I just realized my camera's right in front of the buttons. Here it is. Okay, so then we've got project management. As a user, I must be able to manage my own projects. It's really simple stuff at this point, right? So if I zoom out, I'm going to focus to start with on project management and feedback. Yeah, I'll sell you a license. Don't worry, Chris. Definitely sell you a license. Then we are going to add feedback. As a user, I must be able to gather feedback about my product or project. There we go. That's it. They are the main features, the kind of those top level features, epics, that sort of thing. So then what you can do is dive into here and you can go, okay, so what I want to be able to do here is GitHub authentication. Oh, my wife brought me food. Thank you. I wonder if she'll bring me a drink. We'll see. Okay, GitHub authentication. As a user, I must be able to log in or register using my GitHub account. That's simple, right? That's all I need for authentication, really. But there's additional things in authentication. So we're going to want a default workspace. As a user, when I register, I should have a default workspace created for me. So there's that sort of stuff. What is that? Some random comment. Let me delete that. Okay, so we're going to have a default workspace. So the idea here is that when you sign up, you get given your kind of default workspace, which is why I'm not 100% sure on the multi-tenancy yet. I might do, I might not. I'll come back to that. So you get your default workspace, and then at the same time, once you've got your default workspace, you should also auto assign initial role. So as a user, when my default workspace is created, I should be added as an admin. And there we go. That's kind of a basic of authentication at this point, right? I want to be able to authenticate. I'm only going to do GitHub authentication. I'm going to keep it super simple, just social auth. You log in with GitHub, because this is aimed at someone like me, someone like you, where you want to manage your products, your projects. You log in with GitHub and it's just got your stuff. So then next up, we can come back, and what I'm going to quickly do is we are going to not show sub options on this main display, because it really bugs me when it does that. I want this top level view when I'm in issues and I want to dive into them. So in project management, so when it comes to projects, I want to be able to manage my projects. So as a user, I must be able to manage my projects effectively. Link GitHub repo. As a user, I must be able to link a project to a GitHub repo. So the idea here is then that that project can accept webhooks, so that when a PR is created or a PR is merged, I can kind of link that back to the project, link that back to the tasks, link that back to any feedback items and generate change logs and all the stuff that I might want to do. So to do project management, task management. As a user, I must be able to manage my own tasks. Simple, right? And then once we get to this part, we can dive in even further. We can say things like CRUD. As a user, I must have the ability to perform full CRUD operations on my own tasks. Atlassian Auth 2. Atlassian. I mean, it's a possibility. I don't use it. I don't use Bitbucket. I don't use any of those. I use GitHub because it just works. But I get the point. I'll have to have a look at that when it comes to kind of architecting parts of this. Because what I've done so far in enums is I've got this identity provider. So what you could possibly do there is how do you spell it? Atlassian, there we go. And then maybe you could have GitLab. You could do something like that, easy enough, right? Okay, so I also want to sync issues. As a user, I should have any issues for my project synced from GitHub as tasks. Straightforward, right? Let's go into that one. And then within this, we're also going to want this kind of, when we're syncing issues, to pull them down. We also want to push updates. So as a user, if I comment or close a task, it should be reflected on GitHub. There we go. So if we kind of update anything on GitHub, it should pull in. If we update anything locally, it should push up. It's just common courtesy, right? So we want to be able to CRUD them, sync them, and then we're going to have this kind of state machine going on. as a user, all of my tasks should go through a state machine to help guide automations and stuff. Now, I don't know what that stuff might be, but part of the state machine is going to be, okay, so you've moved it to closed, or you move it to in testing, and now it can do stuff. You want it to be able to do stuff, and it can only do that stuff when it's in a specific state. So there's some rules around that, which is going to be fun to kind of build out. So let's come back out of project management right now. Yeah, automations are at a repo level, not just a brand. Yes, definitely. So project management. Now I'm not 100% sold on cycles yet, but I do like the idea of possibly adding them. So cycles. As a user, I can define work cycles to group my tasks into. Now, I don't do so much dev work day to day anymore. Most of my stuff is DevRel focused, where I'm writing, recording, live streaming, playing around with projects, nothing too crazy. And it's funny that I'm designing this project management system on a project management system, but there we go. So cycles, you have to enable them. As a user, I must be able to enable cycles in my workspace settings. Length. As a user, I must be able to define the length of my cycles. Because, some people do 6 weeks, some people do 2 weeks. It's nice to be able to kind of just tweak them, right? And you've got to design them in a way that they're flexible. Missed tasks. As a user, if my tasks aren't completed within a cycle, they get moved to a new state. What that might be called, I don't know yet, but imagine this is okay, it's in my backlog, it's in my to-do, it's in whatever you might want to call it. And then what you have is that cycle ends, and all of those things that you didn't quite achieve, typically you have to just move all of them back to the backlog. What you really want to do is kind of move them to the side and say, okay, these were missed opportunities. And depending on your workflow, you either add them to that next cycle, you move them back to the backlog, or you leave them until you get time to come back to them. So there's, just depending on how you work, right? So I think that's most of it for all of that. Label management. As a user, I must be able to manage labels per project. One thing that bugs me about a lot of kind of things that I've worked on is labels are more kind of global or workspace scoped. And you've got to go through setting them up for each project. Cycle overflow, custom label, whatever it might be. But label management, sometimes my project, because of the way it's structured, the way it needs to work, sometimes you want specific labels per project. Maybe this is an API label. Maybe this is, I don't know, an edge function label, but you don't have that globally in your workspace. It's got to kind of trickle down. And now we'll move on to feedback. So feedback submissions. As a user, I must be able to receive feedback for projects from authenticated guests. It could be anyone. It could be a guest. It could be, another member of your team. But you need that central place to gather that feedback, right? Voting on feedback. As a user, I must be able to gather votes on each feedback item to give an indication of importance. So, 20 people voted this, great. The highest voting one, cool. I know that's important. Commenting. As a user, I must be able to gather comments on each feedback item, allowing me to see community census. Categories. As a user, I must be able to categorize each feedback item. The roadmap. As a user, I must be able to. This is just linear. I'm using linear here, Excalidraw here, sorry. But the platform I'm building is just something random called Sidekick, which I made up name-wise, and I'm just kind of figuring it out, right? So as a user, I must be able to move feedback items to the roadmap. Changelog. As a user, when a roadmap entry is marked as done or complete, it is added to a change log. Segmenting. As a user, I must be able to segment users that provide feedback so I can group them into logical segments. Yeah, time-limited feedback could be quite cool. So time-limited feedback. As a user, I want to be able to limit how long feedback can be, or how long comments and votes can be submitted against each feedback item. Just be able to say, 2 weeks, I can gather feedback for 2 weeks. And then after those 2 weeks, it goes into this review process. So you can start building up your sprints or your cycles or your whatevers. And I'm not going to do the support knowledge based on engagement right now, but I will come back down to here. So got authentication down here. Workspace settings. As a user, I must be able to update my workspace settings according to my needs. Nice and simple. API tokens. As a user, I must be able to create API tokens that are scoped to my user account or scoped to a workspace. Nice and simple. Workspace members. As a user, I must be able to manage my workspace members and send invites. Yes, I mean, that's the biggest problem that I've got with something like Sanctum is that it's not easy to scope API tokens out of the box. Webhooks. As a user, I want to be able to configure webhooks that I can use to be notified about changes. Something that's often overlooked when it comes to like most platforms. So when it comes to the roles and permissions and authorization, I'm going to have a relatively flat structure. But as it's going to be open source, it can be kind of tweaked and configured how you need it to be. So that is all of that basically planned, right? We've been going live for like half an hour and I've got a good idea. Why? Yeah, exactly. Why do people miss webhooks as a notification system? Like, I don't know, something marked as a task completed or a cycle finished. You could get a webhook and do your own automations off the platform that might not be needed. So there's 27 issues, lots to do. I mean, this was just going to be planning, but why don't we just get some stuff done, right? Like, I've got this bit started. And if I come back to Excelerator, up here, we've got GitHub. So we're going to be getting issues, issue comments, repositories, pull requests, pull request reviews. We're going to be getting a variety of kind of webhooks coming in. Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure I've wrote an article or did a talk about it before. But from GitHub, we're going to be pulling in some information, getting data from GitHub when things happen. And then we're going to be using something like Ollama to generate tasks or generate like a weekly digest, release notes, changelog graphs, summarize threads, description suggestions, auto tag things, feedback sentiment, help articles. We're going to leverage something like Ollama and AI to enhance the experience instead of like, you know, just taking over. We want to enhance our workflow and progressively enhance it to the point where organizations. No, so GitHub, you're missing a level there. I think organizations know. So think of this as a freelancer. You have your default workspace. That is your GitHub organization at that level. Let's say I'm then going to go do work for Titan or Laravel or Sparsy or some other company. I'll have a workspace for each one and create projects within there. So that's a kind of what I find the best way to organize this is that you think of a workspace as the space in which you work. And for that specific period, that would be, I don't know, something. There's one thing that I did forget about. And there's one thing that I actually really like on Linear. So if I come back to the project overview, you can add documents. Organization membership. Yeah, so I wanted to look at what I can do around that to automate kind of joining things, but so there we go. Documents. One thing that I missed on here is documents. So what we need under project management, projects, documents. As a user, I must be able to create and submit documents to outline information about the project. So let's talk about projects for a minute, because there's the other side. I mean, linear is pretty cool, right? But it's missing a couple of things. And one thing that I really like about other solutions like Basecamp, for example, is each project's got like a chat board, or I can't remember what they call it, a campfire or something like that, where they can just like post updates and post things into it. And it's just a kind of running history of what's going on, or any kind of thoughts or feelings around the project that you can kind of scroll back through, which is pretty handy. Talk about scope creep, right? Okay, so campfire style conversation thread. So as a user, I must be able to post messages about the project into a project scoped message thread. That makes sense in my mind. I don't know if it makes sense in your mind, but to me it does. So that's all done. Let's come over to our code and let's see what we've got going on. We've got Vitis running. Let's just come down to our database and make sure our migration is all set up. Yep. If I log in, it should work. So let's come to our resources JS, down into pages, into features, authentication, login. Now this is using that auth base, and that is currently using that auth simple layout, but we are going to use the auth split layout. There we go. Come back to login, and that form and submit can be removed. Like that, because we don't actually need a form. And don't need this status thing. Don't really need this form at all. But what we do want is this button. Just grab this form and let's just delete it for now. Drop that in. Remove that if, disabled if. Go have a look. Here we go. Cool. So, CN view. Let's go see what we can do. Yeah, JSLand hasn't come up with a new one yet. Soon. So this is what we need. Just this style button here. If I go to GitHub quickly and come over into the apps, come over to V4, pages, no. Where is it? Components. Packages, no. It's somewhere. It is somewhere. It might still be in dubs. Dubs. Examples, auth, example. How are they doing their button? Login. Where is it? Where's this form? Create an account, blah, blah, blah. Terms of service. User auth form. So in components, user auth form, we've got this GitHub logo, which they are pulling from Radix icons. Okay. And the button is type button, loading, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So I can do something with this. Let's delete that and this for now. And I am going to use lucid.dev. There's a view package for this. I am using npm for this at the moment. So let's come over and just get that installed. Lucid view next. That'll do the business. There's also simpleicons.org, which I can use for this part down here. There is a view one, so view 3 package over here, which I can then just import that as well. So view 3 simple icons, which I can then pull in specific icons as needed. So if I copy this, I can come over to here and I can say, boop, and we will say GitHub icon. GitHub icon. Icon. Let's remove that animate spin and we'll switch to the new size 4. Log in with GitHub. Let's go see if it died or not. Log in with GitHub. Awesome. So up here we can say log into your account. We can change that to sign into your account. I can say that. Use GitHub to sign into your account. There we go, that's all that. Then when we click that, we want to do something specific. So let's come over to the components, down to button. There's a way to do it as a link, variant link. As child, there we go. That's what I need. So type is not submit. I don't know if I need a tab index. So I'm going to remove that for now as child. Then this can be that. And I'll just add a class on it for now, with full or something. And we'll use root oauth.github.redirect. Bang. Authorize sidekick. This comes back. And it's logged me in. Come to my dashboard. Placeholder pattern isn't available. Not a problemo. Loader circle is no longer needed there. That is cool. So the kind of login and register are going to be kind of similar. Create an account to create a new account. Sign up with GitHub. It's gonna do the exact same thing because I'll walk you through this part. So authentication, GitHub controller. We got this social bit here where we go, okay, let's get the information from Socialite, update or create based on the provider and the provider ID. That is our source of truth when it comes to the identity. And then we're just going to drop all of that in. If the user was recently created, we're going to fire this new event for registered. Then we're going to log in and redirect to home, and we are done. So it's kind of pointless having both, but I'm keeping them both for now. Obviously, there's log out. No biggie there. Standard, standard, standard. So what happens? When a user is created, we hit this user observer, which will dispatch a job for create default workspace. It is now done. Once a workspace has been created, we want to create a new workspace member. So this will dispatch create new workspace member, which will then create the workspace member. And we are just saying, okay, because this is when a workspace is created, we know it's going to be an admin for the user and workspace. Getting there. We know what we're talking about. Let's come back over here. Let's go and have a look in Table Plus. So we have got our workspaces default workspace member. That hasn't been triggered for some reason. And this has. So what we will do is stop that, migrate fresh there. While that's migrating, I want to go look at that. Was it on dashboard? Placeholder pattern? Yeah, it was. That should resolve that. Yes, it does. Cool. So let's close all of those and compose a debit. Right. So that's now running. This will take me to login. Back here. So then if I come over here, create default workspace. So that workspace has been created. It's almost like this isn't being triggered. I'm not sure why. Thoughts, people, thoughts. Let's come to our database a second. Migrations, workspaces. I might drop the uniqueness of that name. Because I'm not going to be routing to it for the foreseeable. So that's fine. I wonder. Just quickly dump things and redo it. Right, so when we log in, takes us there. Create default workspace. This is going to query and create. I don't know whether it's because it's wrapped in a transaction that it's not doing what I want it to do. So let's just do that for now. Migrate fresh, compose a dev. Ooh. Did I refresh it too soon? There we go. Login. Let's watch this do its business. Create default workspace. That is odd. That observer is not being picked up for some reason. So That is linked correctly. Everything should be doing what it needs to. Okay, the only thing I can think to do now is if we just remove that for now, we can just remove that workspace observer. And inside the onboarding, create default workspace, we can do something like dispatcher bus and just dispatch another job or command. So new create workspace member. What we'll do is get a workspace. So user is this user, workspace is workspace ID, and role is role admin. Sort those arguments, fix that up. Let's leave it at that and see how it looks. Sounds like it might be going in the right direction. What do you think? So, hey, workspace member has been done. So, workspace membership, user admin, users, all looking good. Workspace members and users. It's all working as I expected at that point. Perfect. So what we can do is come to linear, authentication, GitHub. I must be able to log in or register using my GitHub account. Well, to me, that's done. Default workspace. Yes, that's been done, but there are workspace settings and other things that I also need to figure out. So I can't really mark that as done, but what I can do is maybe move this to in progress. As a user, when my default workspace is created, I should be an admin. That is done. So now for the workspace, we need settings. And how should we structure this? This is like the important part now, right? So a make model, I'm just going to call it setting -f. There we go. So settings table, and let's go ahead and get this started. So we're going to have a table, a foreign UL ID for the workspace ID. We will index it. We're going to constrain it to the workspaces, and we will cascade on delete. So we're cleaning up after ourselves. So we're going to have a table, JSON column for features, which would be nullable to start with. So what we're thinking here is workspace settings. We are going to have features, which is what features are enabled or disabled for the workspace. Then what we also going to want is webhooks. I don't know if that's a setting. That's probably not a setting. Let's come back to here. And what we'll do is we are going to show sub issues for a sec. So managing projects, that's cool. Documents, webhooks, members, settings. Here we go. Feedback submissions. So we can have JSON nullable for feedback options. Change log, no problems here. Commenting, voting, feedback submissions, labels, missed tasks, length for cycles. Cool. We'll have table JSON nullable cycles. So settings specific to cycles. So this is going to be things like cycles. Is it enabled? Yes. Feedback. Like, yeah, all of that sort of thing that you might want to have. And then down here will be specific settings for each feature. So I need to kind of build this out in more depth. Cycles, feedback. What else have we got? What else have we got? Roadmap. Segments. Tokens, webhooks. No. I'm gonna leave it at that for now. Maybe we'll add table, JSON, analytics, nullable, and AI nullable, just because that was suggested up there. Okay. Next up, we want to go and work on the factory. Yay, important stuff. Setting factory. Okay. So this extends factory for the setting. Grab that. The small inline one for static analysis reasons. Model is a setting. And we can just say that this is a class string for setting. So pop that over there. We have got features, cycles, feedback, analytics, AI, then that workspace ID is going to be a workspace factory. Let's just fix that up like that. Okay, so we're going to want a custom cast for some of these things because it's useful, right? So how should we do it? Let's go over here. Let's go to the laravel.com docs. And let's go to custom casts. So we want to make a cast to start with. Make a cast. Let me see if I bring it up. Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah, you can. So we want to make a cast. We will call this settings feature cast. There you go, feature cast. Bang. So we're going to open this up as well, and we are going to say this use has ULIDs, fillable. Let's just go fill all of this stuff in quickly so we can dive into the cast a little bit more. This is a list of strings, features, cycles, feedback, analytics AI, workspace ID. And then we're going to have this casts at the bottom, which is an array. We'll return an array. Which is string, class string, or string. Features, feature cast, like so. And then we will just quickly clean all of that up. Right. That is that. What we can then do is a public function workspace belongs to, turn this belongs to related workspace, foreign key is workspace ID. And then everyone workspace, we can have public function settings has one, return this has one related setting class, and the foreign key is workspace ID. So then up here we can have a property read setting for settings. Awesome. So we've got our models kind of loosely built at this point. Let's come back to our casts. So value object cast, this is kind of what I need. Let me just move this here. Casts attributes. So this doesn't address thing. So what we want is this kind of value object. We'll follow suit with this for now. So I'd shared value objects and features. So public function construct. Let's just do it like this, and we're going to have a list of features. So public read only bool cycles, public read only bool feedback, analytics, and AI. Awesome. And so when we get it, what we want to do is attributes. I think it's values that we really care about at this point. Want to return a new features where we say cycles is value cycles or false. Feedback, analytics, and that. I think that is probably what I'm looking for. Then when we're setting it, what we want to do is if value instance of features, we want to throw invalid argument. So new invalid argument exception. The message is the given value must be. Ooh. Okay. We'll leave it at that. Okay. Then next up, we want to return values. Return cycles, value cycles, blah, 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 blah. Cool. Let's just simplify this. Fix the whole file. Okie dokie dokie dokie. So nothing is enabled by default, which is cool. So then what we want to do in our jobs, create default workspace. We are going to create another job so that we create the settings by default. So make a job, workspaces, create default settings for workspace. Very wordy, right? Bus dispatch. The command is new create default settings for workspace. Workspace is workspace ID. So then this is going to have a public read-only string for the workspace ID. This can then go up there, do a bit of this, bit of that, execute the job, bibbidi bobbidi boop. Database manager as database, and then we can say that the database transaction callback setting query create. I'm going to attempt it a max of 3 times. So features, do that. Okay, so keep that null for now, and what we'll do is a new features where cycles is false, feedback was set to true, analytics was set to false, and AI will set to false as well. So that should create all of that, which should be pretty cool. Okay, I think I know what I'm doing. Kind of do, kind of don't. We'll see. Fix our file. Then what I want to do, remigrate. And let's go see what I break. Right? So log in. I'm signed in. Create default settings for workspace. Settings. Ooh, features. Okay, it didn't do anything. It didn't do anything. Why not? Why the devil not? Oh, wait a minute. This is why. Features. Don't know why it always does that. Hello. Thank you for joining. I am just, I'd say live coding, but it's more like live debugging half the time. So I suppose we will see. We will see. All right. Ahaha. Must be of type array, string given. Okie dokie. So What is really wanted at this point is custom casts as JSON, JSON decode, and JSON encode. That's getting attributes. Okay, I see what's going on. There is a way to do it. It's always a bit of a bugger. Okay, so I believe it's this that is the problem here. So when it is trying to set it, so that's not being set. And what we want to do is, tell you what, let me show you a cool feature of Dia. What I can actually do, grab this, come over to here. Oh, where's the little button? There it is. So I have a custom cast. Help me create the, it's a set method, isn't it? The set method for a custom cast where the attribute features will be this value object. So that will go ahead and do that. So as features, blah, 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 doing all of that. Features. That's not quite what I'm on about. Here is the eloquent model I am using. Sometimes you've got to kind of squeeze it a little bit. So here's my feature cast. It's going to get that and do all of that. It's still not how it should be. So the set method should be taking the features object and serializing it to the database for the features column, not spreading across the properties of the model. Let's see if we can teach AI at the same time. So, JSON decode. Cool. Let's just do that. This sounds like it's going to make sense. So we can do that. And that. So that makes sense. I did wonder if I'd need to serialize, but hey, hey, ho. Hardening error handling. fix a whole file. Add a throws tag, because why not? This can be narrowed to false string. We want to harden the error handling there. Features. Add a throws tag. Right, okay, let's try that again. Nope. Migrate fresh. Then dev. Right, okay, let's see if that managed to kind of figure out what I'm trying to do. Burp, burp, burp. Insert into settings. Array to string conversion. Where could that be coming from? I think it's something to do with that. Let's just do this for now. Something funky is going on, right? Custom casts trip you up sometimes. Unless you remember exactly the steps you need to take, it can be a bugger. Here we go. I thought it might have been that. So there we go. We've got what's enabled and what's not enabled. So then cycles feedback analytics AI can then be specific settings objects for each one as required. Excellent. Customization achieved. Okay, that's all of that, which means that if we come to our dashboard, got my avatar already. Let me put myself over this corner. My little avatar over here. It's currently dying and saying, no, you're not allowed to open this. Boop. Right. 2 refs expects reactive object. Okay. I broke something somewhere. So profile.edit. So the profile.edit in the project. This should be settings.profile.edit and settings.profile.edit. No, apparently not. Apparently I'm just as wrong as I usually am when it comes to JavaScript errors. Drop down menu context. Okay, so it's something that I'm passing into it. User menu context. Props, passing in the user, show email. Show avatar, user avatar. Let's come back over here and let's go have a look at view for the dashboard. Auth user does have an avatar. Right, we'll clean that up because we've got some kind of modeling stuff to do because I've not even started that part. But as you can see, we've gone from planning over here to planning over here. Wow, that change is different. Can I change the interface theme? Let's get magic blue. There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Back to the app. So to this, to this, and now we've got that. So we've got stuff working and things are where we want them to be. But that's like an hour and 15 minutes. I should probably go and eat some lunch because I'm going to go take some time off today. So I will pick this back up another time. Thank you, as usual, for joining in. That was pretty fun. A little bit of planning, a little bit of setup, a little bit of organization and figuring out how things are going to work. We'll carry this on again in another stream. And I think next time what we should do is maybe dive into something a little bit specific. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think I should work on with this. I'm going to stick with this project for quite a while just to kind of build something up because I'll find it useful and I'll probably use it once it's finished. Like, subscribe, make me feel a bit better about how I spend my time. But other than that, have a good day, stay awesome, and catch you online. Goodbye.